The decision of whether to include specific hardware in assemblies depends on several factors. These include project requirements, construction type, and assembly purpose. Building codes and specifications may require certain types of hardware for safety and performance. Different construction methods such as wood framing, concrete slabs, and steel beams require different types of hardware. The intended use of the assembly may influence the hardware requirements. While it is common practice to include straps or mini beams in assemblies, it is not always necessary to include every bolt, washer, or lock washer. For assemblies that require secure attachment to a surface, anchors and bolts should be specified. However, the specific type and quantity will vary depending on the construction type and load requirements. Washers help distribute the load and prevent nuts from loosening. Lock washers are used to prevent nuts from vibrating loose. Include these hardware items as necessary to ensure assembly stability and performance. Refer to project documents and consult with design professionals to determine the required hardware. Use appropriate hardware based on the construction materials and methods. Include labor costs associated with hardware installation in your estimates. Provide sufficient hardware to ensure assembly performance, but avoid overspecifying and increasing labor costs. Create standard assemblies that include common hardware items for typical construction types. This can streamline the estimating process. Clearly specify the hardware requirements in assembly drawings or other project documentation to avoid confusion during construction. By carefully considering the above factors and following best practices, you can strike a balance between providing appropriate hardware and maintaining efficiency in your estimating and assembly creation. Consider the level of detail required for each assembly based on its function and the project specifications. For instance, a simple support bracket might only need a general specification for fasteners, while a critical structural connection would require a detailed list of specific bolts, washers, and lock washers meeting particular standards. Evaluate the cost-benefit of including every single piece of hardware versus using a more generalized approach. While accuracy is crucial, overspecifying can lead to increased material costs and labor IOs without a significant improvement in the assembly's performance or safety. Standardizing assemblies can significantly improve efficiency. Develop a library of predefined assemblies that include commonly used hardware for typical applications. These standard assemblies can be quickly adapted and modified as needed, reducing the time spent detailing each assembly from scratch. Use checklists to ensure consistency in your estimating process. A well-designed checklist can help you remember to consider all relevant factors, such as building codes, construction type, and assembly purpose, when determining the appropriate hardware for each assembly. Integrate estimating software that allows you to easily add or remove hardware components from assemblies. This can streamline the process of creating variations of assemblies to suit different construction types, while still maintaining a high level of accuracy. Provide clear and concise documentation for each assembly, including detailed drawings, hardware lists, and installation instructions. This will minimize confusion during construction and ensure that the assemblies are installed correctly. Communicate with your construction team to gather feedback on the practicality and cost-effectiveness of your hardware specifications. Their insights can help you refine your estimating process and identify opportunities for improvement. Stay up to date on the latest building codes, hardware standards, and construction techniques. This will ensure that your hardware specifications are always compliant and reflect the best practices in the industry. Consider the environmental factors that may affect the hardware, such as corrosion, temperature, and UV exposure. Specify hardware that is suitable for the intended environment to ensure long-term performance and durability. Factor in the lead time for hardware procurement when developing your project schedule. Some specialized hardware items may require longer lead times, which can impact the overall project timeline. Evaluate the potential for value engineering opportunities where you can substitute less expensive hardware items without compromising the assembly's performance or safety. This can help you reduce project costs without sacrificing quality. Implement a quality control process to verify that the hardware delivered to the job site meets the specified requirements. This will help prevent delays and ensure that the assemblies are installed correctly. Use a consistent naming convention for your assemblies and hardware components. This will make it easier to find and manage your assemblies, and it will reduce the risk of errors. Consider the weight of the hardware when estimating the total weight of the assembly. This is especially important for assemblies that will be lifted or supported by other structures. Factor in the cost of waste when estimating hardware quantities. Some hardware items may be damaged or lost during construction, so it's important to account for this in your estimates. Use a spreadsheet or database to track your hardware costs. This will help you identify trends and opportunities for cost savings. Review your completed projects to identify areas where you can improve your estimating process. This will help you continuously refine your skills and knowledge. Consider the impact of hardware on the overall aesthetics of the assembly. In some cases, you may need to specify hardware that is visually appealing, even if it is not the most cost-effective option. Factor in the cost of special tools or equipment that may be required to install the hardware. This is especially important for specialized hardware items that require specific tools. Use a cloud-based platform to share your assembly drawings and hardware lists with your team. This will ensure that everyone has access to the latest information. Consider the potential for future maintenance or repairs when specifying hardware. Specify hardware that is easy to access and replace, if necessary. Factor in the cost of disposal when estimating hardware costs. Some hardware items may require special disposal methods which can add to the overall cost. Use a mobile app to access your assembly drawings and hardware lists on the job site. This will make it easier to verify that the correct hardware is being installed. Consider the impact of hardware on the energy efficiency of the assembly. In some cases, you may need to specify hardware that is designed to minimize heat loss or gain. Factor in the cost of training your team on the proper installation techniques for the hardware. This will help prevent errors and ensure that the assemblies are installed correctly. Use a 3D modeling program to visualize your assemblies and hardware components. This will help you identify potential problems before construction begins. Consider the impact of hardware on the acoustic performance of the assembly. In some cases, you may need to specify hardware that is designed to reduce noise transmission. Factor in the cost of insurance when estimating hardware costs. Some hardware items may be covered by insurance, which can reduce your overall risk. Use a drone to inspect your assemblies and hardware installations. This will allow you to identify potential problems from a safe distance. Consider the impact of hardware on the fire resistance of the assembly. In some cases, you may need to specify hardware that is designed to withstand high temperatures. Factor in the cost of permits when estimating hardware costs. Some hardware installations may require permits, which can add to the overall cost. Use a laser scanner to create accurate as-built drawings of your assemblies and hardware installations. This will help you with future maintenance and repairs. Consider the impact of hardware on the accessibility of the assembly. In some cases, you may need to specify hardware that is easy to use for people with disabilities. Factor in the cost of commissioning when estimating hardware costs. Some hardware installations may require commissioning, which can add to the overall cost. Use virtual reality to train your team on the proper installation techniques for the hardware. This will help prevent errors and ensure that the assemblies are installed correctly. Consider the impact of hardware on the sustainability of the assembly. In some cases, you may need to specify hardware that is made from recycled materials or that is designed to reduce waste. Factor in the cost of decommissioning when estimating hardware costs. Some hardware installations may require decommissioning, which can add to the overall cost. Use augmented reality to guide your team through the installation process for the hardware. This will help prevent errors and ensure that the assemblies are installed correctly. Consider the impact of hardware on the security of the assembly. In some cases, you may need to specify hardware that is designed to prevent unauthorized access. Factor in the cost of inflation when estimating hardware costs. Hardware prices may increase over time, so it's important to account for this in your estimates. Use artificial intelligence to analyze your assembly drawings and hardware lists and identify potential problems. This will help you improve your estimating process and reduce the risk of errors. When deciding on hardware, always prioritize safety and compliance with local building codes. Never compromise on these aspects to save costs.